Hi, everybody. Welcome to Deep Dive with DUI. Today, our presenter is Jonathan Schmidt. He is a dive instructor for PADI. He's been diving since 2006. But John has gone through and he's now a master scuba diver trainer. He's been doing TDI tech diving. He's a rebreather diver. And he wrote one of the PADI specialties for the Yukon Rec, and that's why he is here today. I'll go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come out and maybe help other people learn something about diving the Yukon. I was taking groups out 8 years ago, and I noticed that when I would spend more time explaining to them the dive site itself or characteristics of it, they would do a much better job. And I would see other people that just jumped in the water with people that had never dove it before. And those people would end up having more of a challenging time. And I thought that, well, there's got to be a way to streamline that so that it's better for the diver, it's better for everyone else. There's a way we can improve it, make it safer. So I wrote a specialty on it, focused on diver safety and dive site specific.
And that sure looks like a clear day right there.
Yeah, this was Farnsworth Banks a couple weeks ago. Drew took that picture, and
so that's not
amazing.
On the Yukon.
It's not. That was the introduction to me. Look, in 2009, I started diving the Yukon. I started diving more. I'm like taking it more serious, but I also had a really healthy fear of like going inside of wrecks, and I knew I was getting in over my head a little bit, and I didn't want to go much farther. Diving the Yukon is like being in the military and you're on a ship, except for there's no one there to tell you, oh, you can't go here, you can't go here, you can't do this. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You can swim through, you can check this out, you can check that out. It was a great day on the Yukon. I could see right through it. Everything looked great. And I'm like, oh, I can go in there. Oh, I want to check that out, but I'm going to get trained first. So I started doing that. My jump was, once I had a dry suit, I didn't care winter, summer, how cold, whatever. If you're in a wetsuit on the Yukon, you probably don't have 15, 20 minutes until you're cold. So once I had a dry suit, it was well worth it. I've upgraded since then, but by the time I'm done, it's something like $2 a dive for a dry suit. And it's an upfront investment, but man, when you're underwater and you're sitting there shivering, just you drop $50 right there to not be cold. It's like wearing a snowboarding jacket in the winter. It's not as bad. When you dive the Yukon, it's laying hard on its side, so it actually gets kind of disorienting. It's a little deeper. The sister ship to the Yukon was sunk up in Canada. It's standing up. It's super shallow. It's like 35 feet to the bridge. It gets pretty big. You can see it's on its side, which actually works out really good in, well, penetrating, but something that you'd want to plan for because you're not so used to that. And then there's a lot of safety things to that. There's a lot of steps we take. There's a lot of things we help to make it better. But what I want to do is walk kind of from the bow to the stern and go over key features and then go into some of the life on it and then go on to the inside. Most of the people that have been diving it for a while like to go down Burma Road, which is on the inside. And one of the things I love the most about the Yukon is it works on every level. What I mean is you can have a great time on the outside, and then when you get bored of that, you can start checking stuff out. When you get tired of that, you can start going up and down Burma Road. And when you get tired of that, you can start going there. So it doesn't matter if you're really new to diving or have been diving for a long time, you can have a great time. So these are the dolphins that they cut out. You can see the picture here where they cut it out before they sunk it. That's a nice key feature. Most people like to see it. You can actually see they cut it on both sides.
And just as a little bit of trivia, that cutout, the missing metal piece is actually at the DUI factory above the bathrooms.
Most people don't even recognize it's dolphins. If you go there, it just looks like a cutout. You have to take a step back to see it. But when you look up or down, it's very apparent. It's pretty close to the sand. That's actually when you're taking the camera, sticking it on the sand and then taking a picture up. It's large enough to swim through. It's a nice feature to know to go in, to come out of. Here's the forward guns, which is where most people come to take pictures. Everyone seems to really like it. They get really excited on there. And a lot of times I'm using a near wide angle lens because it's perfect for taking pictures of people.
Right. And also the dive site itself, because it is out in the open ocean, you have, as the tide swings, currents change, you can go from, 20-foot visibility to 60-foot visibility one day or more, and then turn around and it's like all of a sudden it's a night dive right in the middle of the day. So it just
Oh,
depends.
yeah, it is interesting. Sometimes the morning dive has 60, 80 feet and you're totally blown away. You come up for your surface interval, you drop back down and it's like 20 feet. You're like, what the heck happened here? It's the upwelling, the downwelling. This is the best picture I had. It kind of shows the guns themselves. There's no rifle barreling in there where it rotates like a rifle or a pistol, where you see the grooves on the inside, because when they sold it, they weren't allowed to sell the guns because it would be considered weaponized. So these are actually lamp posts. You can see how sometimes, even if it's pretty clear out, it just gets dark because you are getting deep there. Moving down towards the bridge, these ones look really awesome, especially from the inside, because you have all the cutouts from the windows, and then of course the windows aren't there. It's a little too small to get in or out of, but you get so much light. You get all these strawberry anemones on there. You get so much life on there. It's just super great. That is a good day.
Side mount diving, you can get through there, by the way.
Well, I mean, I can do it on my rebreather, but I wouldn't encourage anyone to do it. Yeah, but this is just a picture to help kind of highlight where all the fish are. You can see that's really laying hard on its port side. You can see this is one of the ascent lines where the boat's tied off. So there's 4 of those. You can find your way out of there really quick, but that gives you a nice concept of the orientation of the wreck itself. This is a good one of the tower, or is Milt's Tilt, but tower. There's a ton of sea life on there. You can usually see pretty good. This is like the main area where people go. Here's a picture of the smokestack. The smokestack actually fell down a couple years ago, but it was a nice turnaround point for people. And then there's some people at the line going up. So most of the people congregate there and they all seem to have a great time. Here's a picture of Andrew, just because I figured Andrew would be watching. There's the picture of the old flag, and you can see divers just having a great time there.
So can you give a little history of why there's a flag on the Yukon there?
Yeah. So
a lot of people don't know this.
I don't think it was unfamiliar, unusual to have flags on there. I remember when I first dove it, there was a pirate flag on there, and then that went away, and then someone put a Raiders flag on there, and then it wasn't unusual to have a flag on there. I think even down on the left side, there's been like a Navy flag. I'm pretty sure there's a Canadian flag by the mooring right now. There was a diver, the Marine, that ended up losing their life on there 8 years ago. Yeah, and right here is the plaque, and I would go all the time and then scrape it off because she was in the Marines, I was in the Marines. Just like looking out for your own. And one Memorial Day, I decided to put the Marine Corps flag on there, and I didn't think it would last long. And I think people seemed to like it. And then 4th of July, they're like, hey, let's put a American flag on there. And then it became a reference point for quite some time. This smokestack came down a couple years ago. Charles and I recovered the flags. We put the plaque up on top side. If someone wants to stick another flag down there, they can stick another flag down there. If somebody wants to stick something else down there, put their dive flag down there or their whatever, it's fine. Like it's a big open wreck. Have fun. It's so now every year it's kind of just been a tradition. Every Memorial Day and Veterans Day, we go down there and we replace the flags. People seem to like to do it. We always get a big gathering. It's the same as we replace the mooring lines pretty frequently, and people like to be a part of that, and it's nice to maintain it and keep it clean, and people like it, so I don't see any harm in it. Some people get perturbed by it, but whatever.
actually have a photo up in the factory at DUI of this area with the flag, the U.S. flag flying on it.
I like it. It's a good for photography. I didn't expect it to last long. It stayed around. It's fine. It's fine by me. Let me progress. You also find a whole lot of the fans and a whole bunch of life on there. It's the only life in the whole entire area because it's an artificial reef. There's a lot of little creatures in and it's all over the place. They used to have big gordians all over it, and they come and go. You get a whole bunch of strawberry anemones. Everywhere else, it's just absolutely covered in it, and it makes a really nice, like you don't even see the wreck anymore. It's all you're seeing is sea life. You can be going along the side, and then it just looks like a very well maintained reef. As opposed to just sand out there. So, and then you get a whole bunch of sea life on there. It's like a sea star just hanging out.
And this is deep enough that having a light will make the colors just jump out at you. So.
Oh yeah, it looks very washed, black and blue, black and gray, without bringing lights. This is another example of just all the cutouts there. There's so many cutouts, but there's not as much there. But you can kind of get in and get out, but it kind of gives you a feeling. This is on the on the hull as opposed to up above. So you can find your way around pretty easily just by looking at what's around. This is actually one of the exhaust vents from the engine room. If I remember correctly, we actually came out of the engine room there. That's the screws, and you can see there's a whole bunch of fish and life that just hangs out there. Maybe not birds.
So as an artificial reef, it really seems to be attracting a lot of life.
Yeah, you can't even other than part of the hull here, you can't even see the metal. There's all sorts of snacks on here, which is great. And then here's the rudder, and you can just see all the life just hanging out on it. People a lot of times get bored, they forget to look at the small stuff. So I have a little section for the macro. There's actually a ton of nudies on there all the time. They switch, they shift. Sometimes you get more of this one, sometimes you get more of that one. There's definitely months where you just get a whole like diverse group of nudibranchs everywhere. I like this one. I took a picture. It's like hanging out one of the anemones. Amazing. There's a bunch of lobsters that hang out. I think most of these pictures were all on the exact same dive. And then it's also easy to take pictures of because they're hanging out the wreck. You can be down on the side and then take a picture, and it's like right in front of you. Whereas if you go out on the kelp beds, most of them are so low you can't look through the camera eye view. When I guide people, I take people I haven't been there before, I try to point them out, and it takes them a minute to start seeing them. You can see a whole bunch of different kind. And then there's just fish hanging out. These ones are super common back by the bridge. That takes me to Burma Road. So people that are certified to dive inside, it's actually a lot of fun in there. Jack can contest to that. Even on a bad day where it's like kind of not great viz on the outside, we'll just go on the inside, and people ask, "Oh, how was the viz?" And it's wall to wall on the inside, and we just explore in there. We go up and down. It's really nice because Burma Road goes all the way from the bow to the stern. So you can go from bow to the stern and back on one dive without having to go deck to deck. You wouldn't be able to do it on a single tank, but it's really ideal for just regular wreck diving because it's at such an angle. Like they have slates that show all the decks, but if you imagine a regular wreck, the silt's going to be all on the bottom. Well, with it laying like this, all the silt goes to the bottom here, and you have all that room to swim with. And because it has cuts out on the side, most of it just washes out. So it's really easy to swim through Burma Road and have a great time if you're new at wreck diving, because you're not going to silt it out. There's a few dead ends and a few places you can silt it out, but you can pretty much pop out at any time. Here's a good example. We staged some lights, but there's an opening up top, there's opening on the sides, so you can come out at any time.
Right. So as you're going through, as far as like an overhead environment, if you definitely dive this during the day, has a different feel. I know at night, it's totally different feel, but during the day, I know we had the light shining through like that. Mm-hmm. It always gives you the ability to stop take a right turn and just exit the wreck, or look up and exit the wreck. So there's a lot of ways of safety to get back out of the wreck.
Exactly. So, and I'll have a good picture here in about 2 or 3 slides. There's a lot of areas where there's a complete overhead environment. I think this is in the engine room, and there's like 2 big cutouts in there. So this is the main corridor. You can see there's just tons of room up and down. You get a lot of light shining through. And particularly when I was new and I didn't know this wreck like the back of my hand, I would go up to a bulkhead and I'd bury my light in my chest. And if there was like a copious amount of light, I would go into the next room. If there was no light, I would just find another way. Because there is a few dead ends there when if you're leading 4 people through, and you have to back up, the caboose isn't so happy with the engine. But it's a really good way to go. There's a good example there too. I use this one because you can see if you were to go up to this bulkhead, you can just look up and see, okay, there's a big opening. There's a bunch of whatever, and you can kind of go. And then because there's 4 mooring lines on this, pretty much no matter where you come out, you're always really close to a way up. And it's also in recreational dive limit. So even if need be, you could just go to the surface at any time. It wouldn't be ideal, but you can. And then this is a good example of where you go through and you can't see anything behind. You can see another diver back there. I realized how many like late night dusk dives I do where there's just not a ton of lights, but I bring a ton of lights. This is a good picture of the Ford magazine. It was a warship, it had 4-inch guns. These are where all the shells go in. Most people have a hard time finding that. I really like it. It looks really cool. There's actually a bunch of toilets on there. Wreck divers, for some reason, love finding toilets. I'm not sure why. But I have no problem pointing them out to people. I know where they're at, and we'll go along. And I'm like, look at the toilet, and then they're people are like, what? Like,
I have many pictures of me sitting on underwater toilets.
I don't understand it, but I have so many, especially traveling, where it's like, hey, get a picture of me, and the guide's like, what are you doing? And I don't know. I'm just having fun. Here's another good picture of where the exit's at.
So that ship is about at a 40-degree angle. Is the main mast of the Yukon still in place?
Yes. The only thing so there's a back deck that pilled over in a storm many years ago. No one would really notice it. The smokestack collapsed about 2 years ago, but a lot of the pipes and stuff is still coming out. So like if you think of like a jet engine where it has all the pipes and stuff on the inside and then it has a cover, the cover fell, the rest of it's still there. It's starting to lose some handrails, but the superstructure itself is there. There's some like modular walls on the inside that's starting to go. And there's like every once in a while, there'll be like an electrical panel that falls down, is hanging by the wires, and we'll go and snip the wires off so it's not an entrapment hazard. Or there's air blowers for like HVAC that has fallen, and you just kind of push it down so that it's not an obstruction.
So that's good to know that, the regulars, the dive masters, and the dive professionals that are going out on these dive boats and diving the wreck all the time are also helping keep it clean and keeping it safe, because obviously things change over time.
It's good to keep all 4 mooring balls available, not just for people coming, but if you're expecting an exit, the exit's there.
Yeah, so I know the outside of the wreck on the Yukon, when there is incredible views, those are the days you want to sit there and you kind of go out and just look at the whole superstructure, and you're able to look down and see entire parts of the ship as a whole, and it's just it's a pretty incredible sight.
Yeah, there's definitely times when we've gone down and planned to penetrate or go down Burma Road, and then we end up like, it's just amazing viz. You're on Mills Tilt. I can see the forward guns, I can see the aft guns, I can look up and see the boat, and you're like, wow, we're not going inside. This day is amazing, and I brought the wrong lens.
We got a question here. It says, in Canada, we've had quite a few former crew members of ships in various ranks have their ashes interred on the former Navy ships. Have there been any interred on the Yukon? I'm not familiar with any, but
I haven't heard of any. I seriously doubt they do. I don't see them getting permission to do that. I'll have to look into that. That's an interesting one.
So I know there's been certain things hidden amongst the stuff in general on the Yukon. I know that for a while there was a full-size, fake skeleton that was being put around different rooms.
That was fun. Yeah, that was so much fun. And then if you're taking people through, you're like, oh crap, I forgot about that. So you'd have to like move it or something so that they knew it was fake. Like, oh, I have to get there first. It was worse when it was falling apart and someone would just find like a bone and like, no, it's a prop. There's a lot of fun times. So, yeah, like I was saying, I used to take groups out. I try to make it as safety oriented and as much information as possible. So I want to find something that could provide a service for people that want it, people that just want it credit, they can get credit, people that need a little bit more time and can explain where you have to be able to write where all the mooring lines are, the key features. Most people get thrown off by little things that when you explain it, and I'll take people out, they're like, oh yeah, it's a lot bigger than I thought, but he said that. And, oh yeah, he said when we get here, we'd be turning, and oh, there it is. And they'll start going down, and it's really hazy. Like, oh, I think I should go back. It's like, oh, wait till you get down. You get down about 70 feet, you pass the haze. And it's really nice. And so I thought I could do something that would help the dive community out here. It's something that people might want. The intent there was for safety. And since then, I've pretty much just done it for people that just ask, hey, can we do this? And I've been trying to maybe in the busy months, like the last Sunday of every month, or make a structured time to do that and want to dive. So you actually get a Yukon diver card from PADI. A lot of people like to collect cards. I've done that myself. I like to get recognition for stuff. I like to check in with oddball ones just for fun when I travel. But the purpose, I'll read it right out of the thing, is the purpose of the PADI HMCS Yukon Diver Specialty course is to educate divers on ways to safely dive on the outside of the Yukon by learning to prepare, plan, and organize their dives, become familiar with and identify main characteristics of the vessel. Sorry if I talk too fast. To aid in locating their position underwater and avoid becoming disoriented. A lot of people have a hard time with it going sideways, or it's so big they're going down that I have to get back to the boat. And you're like, no, we've turned around. The wreck was on our left side. Now the wreck's on our right side. And they just mistake the moorings. So that's the idea. Their divers will navigate and avoid potential hazards. To easily locate safe SF points, divers can also apply these skills they have learned in this course to prepare, plan, and organize their future dives on similar wrecks and artificial reefs by utilizing the same techniques. You can definitely tell people that come in from out of town and have done a lot of wreck dives, they have no problem with stuff. They can go from one to the other. They can navigate it very well. There's a lot of hazards too where cutouts, they get sharp over time and you can cut your hand on it. There's a lot of like poles and stuff that break off, and then there's pokies. And even one of the videos I wanted a picture. I couldn't find a picture of the engine, but there'll be a big opening and you look up and there's a giant transmission sprocket there, just 100 tons of steel. And if you're not paying attention, you'll hit your head on it. I think everyone's done that. But so a lot of times the current will be going one direction, like south, and the wind is blowing toward the shore, so like east, and you actually get a difference on there. So a lot of times people won't hold on to the mooring lines, which is fine when it's calm, but sometimes when you hit about 20 feet, it has a radical turn. The guns is just this little part right here. and that's as far as you can see. So if you imagine you go all the way down, it's 366 feet. So it's roughly the same size of a football field, field goal to field goal. So, you can imagine if you swim 80 yards away, it might be hard to get 80 yards back, or like, oh man, did I pass the exit? Did I pass the exit? Wait, is this my exit? Oh, I think I went too far. And then you can just be lost on the wreck because it's that big.
It does make it easy if you are descending down on like the bow, because it's like, oh, dolphins.
That's also harder at times too, because it's down at 85 feet instead of 65 feet. So
True.
you can say, oh, I have 5 minutes my NDL left. And by the time you get there, not only has it been 4 minutes, but you're now 20 feet deeper and your NDL is now gone. You can see like the haze layer there. That's not super uncommon, but you're going past it. That's why I really like doing the wreck dives out here on the boats versus the shore dives, is you just avoid all that, because you have that at the shores too. You just have to get deeper to get past it. And for size and scale, like all these little people are normal sized people. Hopefully somebody learns something there. I want to throw a couple videos on just as I take questions.
So one of the questions has to do with the composition of the Yukon, because I guess this is from Jay. One of the initial, well, hang on, just big comment just shifted my whole screen. One of the initial concerns of starting these Canadian Navy destroyers is whether there'd be significant electrolysis at the aluminum steel interface of this in the superstructure. Have you seen any signs of this?
If there's what of the superstructure?
Electrolysis. I assume that's where the two metals are meeting. It creates like a deterioration, where the two materials are breaking down, so to speak, underwater. I mean, I know I've seen.
I'm not an engineer, and I have really no reference of that, but I haven't seen any parts where the ship's coming apart. There's
right. I've seen, I mean, obviously the smokestack falling down during that storm.
Yeah.
I saw the rear radio tower. That was interesting, diving that right after it happened, seeing the raw metal and the thickness of it, and going, wow, that was peeled back just like it was a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, water's 8 pounds a gallon, just over.
So here we got DJ Mansfield filled us in on Burma Road. Burma Road is a Royal Canadian Navy speak that described the main passageway of the ship.
Oh, he's a smart guy.
So
he was also in the military for a very long time.
To go deeper, Burma Road was a critical road during World War II, linking Burma. Now, anyways, it goes into a long description but anyways, it's referring to the main passageway.
Oh, that's great. There's always somebody that can pick up on that information. He's a really smart guy. He's up at Beach Cities, scuba. That's good. I didn't know that. That's good information.
That's why we're doing this. I mean, that's why I'm doing this, is because, one, I get to learn a lot of things. In a lot of cases, I want to learn about dive sites that I want to go to, like the Truk Lagoon. In this case, I wanted to share one of my common dive places that I go to and that I enjoy diving.
Yeah, this is my favorite dive site around here. I mean, you can get something bigger in Micronesia if but that's $6,000. You come out here and dive, and it's just over $100 for 2-3 dives, and you can spend all day on there. I love it. I absolutely love it. There's a bunch of people that like to go. It's something that's here. There's a lot of people that come in from out of town. So there might be people like in Texas that come in for a conference or something. And while they're here, they want to go dive somewhere. It's on the chilly side. That's why earlier I was talking about it's well worth the price of a dry suit, just so that you can actually do a longer dive, because it does get chilly out here.
That is something that a lot of people forget when I know San Diego, we have warm weather throughout the year compared to other places around the US. But people forget that the water is actually cold here. They come out and they could be vacation divers and they're used to diving, in no wetsuit or thin wetsuits. And they come out here and they're diving, 7 mil suits, or they haven't dove in their dry suit for a while. It's always good practice to do other dives before you go and do this one right away, in the cold water, just so you get that practice, so you can go down here and actually enjoy these wrecks. Obviously, going inside, you shouldn't go inside unless you are skilled enough for this and your comfort levels there. Because as you can see, and especially in this video that you're showing,
It's
there
the
are a lot
engine
of,
room right here.
yeah, there's definitely some entanglement areas that you could get kind of stuck in.
Yeah, the entrance and exit here is like in the roof.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will go to the wrong side and then can't find their way out and like, look up. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. There's people that come in from warmer water and they say, "Oh, I always dive a 3 mil and I'm fine." And no, you're not going to be fine. Or I've had people come in from Florida that, "Oh, I just go with the current," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've dove in Florida before. The boat follows your bubbles."
Right.
But here we're moored off or anchored. So if you're going with the current, you're gonna have quite the swim when you get to the surface, or you're gonna have to wait for everyone else to get back on the boat to get picked up.
So I know on some dive locations, there are certain restrictions on different ways of diving, or certifications. So one of the questions is about penetrating the wreck. Is it required to have a line, or can you just go in through the cutouts? I know that I have run lines in here more for practice myself. Most of the time I just swim through, but I'm also relatively familiar with the wreck myself. So there are no local rules that I know of that says you have to have a line when you go inside this wreck.
I don't think there's any rules. There's definitely like etiquette, like if you go in and trash it for someone else, but that's also based off your skill level. So if you just finished your rec class, that's your only way out if you silt it out. So that's probably not a bad idea. You can probably find a way out, because you can see, like in this video, there's an ample amount of light coming up, but you can silt it out or go to the next room. Like I said earlier, I would, in some parts, it would be kind of pointless to run a line. There's some good, decent swim throughs. If you don't know which ones are swim throughs and which ones aren't, I would lay a line. There's a lot of like techniques you can do to minimize that, and like I said, there's a lot of dead ends there too. So there's places in particular, even on the Yukon, if I go, I'll lay a line from the inside in, but there's different preferences, and most of that is just based off your skill. I don't think anyone's going to like police it underwater. I don't think anyone's going to come down and shake a fist at you. But if you lay a line across an opening, people are going to be pissed. If other people are just swimming through and you go in and silt it out, people will probably likewise also not be so happy with that.
Right. And people need to understand that this inside the wreck, it's always changing, because I know there's been certain hatches that have doors have opened up that used to be welded shut for safety reasons that are now open. And that anyone going inside of a wreck need to be really, cautious of it. Just don't blindly go inside of some room. Again, stressing don't go beyond your dive limits.
Well, if you even follow the wreck course, the first dive should be just on the outside mapping it. And then the second dive is with a line and slight penetration. You wouldn't want to go too far. So obviously, if it's your first time doing it, I would recommend you going with somebody else that knows it well. And then if you're not too sure, there's no real harm in laying a line. But like you can see here, the opening is so mass. I don't even know how or why you would lay a line there. but I think the one to the right is a dead end there, and I think the one in the middle goes forward, but one of those is a dead end too. So
Yeah, there's a few spots that get kind of thin and tight. But if you're visiting, and if you're not 100% comfortable with diving the wreck, a lot of the different dive charters have access to dive masters that have dove this hundreds of times, that can lead you on a tour either on the outside to keep you safe, or go, um, you know, into safer areas of the ship, so to speak.
yeah, I've guided people that were divers that are either dive instructors, dive masters, have hundreds of dives, and you're like, wait, why am I here? And they're like, I just want you to show me where all the good stuff's at. I have 3 dives and I don't want to look at sand the whole time. And you're like, okay, I'll show you where all the cool stuff is. I've had
Right.
people come in that have advanced rec and they have this and they want to do that and they want to see it out. And I actually have like different routes. I take different people, and um, when I get divers with a lot of experience and a lot of training, the first thing I do is there's a section below the sand and below the wreck and above the sand where the cutouts are, and I'll take them in that way, and I'll reevaluate their confidence level and
Right.
then see how much exploring we're going to do. But that's where that multi-level, multi-layered dive
Right. So one of
works
the one
out
of the
well.
questions is, right now in San Diego, we have two main charter boats that will
Mhm.
go out to the wreck. One is Water Horse Charters, and that's the one that you work with.
Yeah.
They go out regularly, pretty much every weekend, weather permitting. And the other one is Marissa Charters. Both, are located in places that um, have easy access to these wrecks, or wreck alley, so to speak. And they'll have different combination dives, like a double Yukon or a Yukon Ruby E, or some of the, like Nos Tower, and some of these different places that you can go to. And of course, you know, once this whole COVID thing is getting a little bit lighter, there'll be more places to go to and talk and, enjoy a beverage after the dives with your dive buddies. Um, let a lot of things are closed right now, in other words.
Yeah. Oh, of course. And yeah, they all I like all the boats. Marissa does a great job. The Water Horse has been like family to me for a really long time.
So we are running out of time on this. Thanks, John, for coming out and sharing.
Yeah, and if
Um,
anybody wants to do the specialty, most people just end up contacting me directly
yeah. So if
on
you,
Facebook or whatnot, or you can just email the Water Horse and ask if you're going to be in town and you want to do that. You just
right.
ask them, and we'll try to schedule. They'll
So
try
you
to
can,
schedule. I don't do the scheduling at all.
okay. So